The imperial palace of Scaloris Prime stood like a mountain of crystal and metal against the purple sky. Inside its grand halls, something terrible was happening. Emperor Tharaxin, ruler of the mighty Draconite Empire, paced back and forth in his private chambers. His large clawed feet clicked against the polished stone floor. His golden scales, which usually shone with pride and power, now looked dull with worry. In a medical wing 3 floors below, his twin heirs were dying. Little Sarah and Kale, barely 6 months old, lay in separate containment units. Their small bodies shook with fever. Their scales, which should have been bright silver like their mother's, flickered between red and orange like burning embers. They cried without stopping. The sound echoed through the hallways, breaking the hearts of everyone who heard it. Chief Healer Morpheus stood beside the Emperor. His old scales were marked with the scars of decades of service. He had served 3 generations of the imperial family. Never in all his years had he felt so helpless. "My Emperor," he said quietly, his voice heavy with shame. "We have tried everything. Every treatment in our archives. Every medicine known to our people. Nothing works. The hatchlings grow weaker each day." Emperor Tharaxin closed his eyes. His mate, Empress Silvara, had died bringing these 2 precious lives into the world. The twins were all he had left of her. The thought of losing them too was more than he could bear. "There must be something," he said. His voice cracked despite his efforts to sound strong. "Contact the Galactic Medical Council. Offer whatever payment they demand. I will give anything to save my children." Morpheus bowed his head. "I already did, my Emperor. They are sending their best minds." "But—" He hesitated. "But what?" Tharaxin demanded. "They are sending a human, my lord." The Emperor's head snapped up. "A human? Those small, soft creatures who only joined the galactic community 50 years ago? What could they possibly know that we do not?" Morpheus spread his clawed hands helplessly. "The council said we need fresh eyes. A different perspective. The human doctor has experience with many species. They insisted she be allowed to examine the heirs." Tharaxin wanted to refuse. The Draconite people were ancient and proud. Their civilization had spanned the stars for thousands of years before humans even invented the wheel. The idea of needing help from such a young species felt like an insult. But then another cry echoed from below. Sarah's voice, weak and filled with pain. The Emperor's pride crumbled. "Fine," he said. "Bring the human. I will try anything." 2 days later, Dr. Maya Chen stepped off the shuttle onto the palace landing pad. She was small, even for a human, barely reaching 5 feet tall. Her black hair was pulled back in a simple knot. She wore the blue uniform of the Galactic Medical Corps with a worn medical bag slung over her shoulder. She looked around at the towering Draconite guards and the massive architecture without any sign of fear. A court official, his scales polished to mirror brightness, looked down at her with barely hidden contempt. "You are the human doctor?" His tone suggested he found this hard to believe. Maya smiled pleasantly. "Dr. Maya Chen, pediatric specialist. I understand there are sick children who need help. May I see them, please?" The official's nostril slits flared. In Draconite culture, direct requests without proper formal greetings were considered rude. But Maya simply stood there, waiting patiently, her medical bag in hand. Finally he turned. "Follow me." They walked through corridors that seemed designed for giants. Everything was hard angles and cold metal. The lighting was bright and harsh. Maya noticed there were no soft surfaces anywhere, no colors except gray and silver. She made mental notes as they descended deeper into the palace. The medical wing was impressive by any standard. Machines that Maya did not recognize lined the walls. Monitors displayed information in Draconite script that scrolled too fast for her to read. In the center of the room stood 2 clear containment units. Inside each one, a small dragon hatchling lay curled in distress. Maya's heart clenched at the sight. Sarah and Kale were beautiful despite their obvious suffering. They were each about the size of a large dog, with delicate wings folded against their sides. Their scales rippled with unhealthy colors, shifting from red to orange to yellow like warning lights. They whimpered and cried, their small claws scratching at the smooth floors of their containment units. Emperor Tharaxin stood before the units, his back straight and his face carefully controlled. But Maya could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his claws flexed unconsciously. This was a father watching his children suffer, trying to maintain the dignity his position required. Chief Healer Morpheus approached her. "Dr. Chen. We have performed every scan, administered every treatment protocol. Their bodies show signs of systemic failure, but we cannot identify the cause. The fever does not respond to any medicine. They refuse food and water. We are running out of time. Maya set down her bag and walked slowly toward the containment units. She studied them carefully, not the hatchlings yet, but the units themselves. They were technological marvels, she was sure. Climate-controlled, sterile, monitored constantly. Perfect medical equipment. And completely wrong. She turned to face the room full of Draconite physicians and officials. How long have they been in these units? Since their symptoms began, Morpheus answered. 3 weeks ago. We isolated them immediately to prevent any possible contagion and to monitor them properly. I see, Maya said quietly. And before they got sick, where did they sleep? The question seemed to confuse everyone. Morpheus glanced at the Emperor before answering. In the royal nursery, of course. In their proper sleeping chambers. According to Imperial protocol. Alone? Maya asked. Yes. Imperial heirs must learn independence from birth. It is our way. Maya nodded slowly. She walked closer to the units, ignoring the officials who moved to stop her. She pressed her hand against the clear material of Sarah's containment unit. The little hatchling lifted her head weakly, her golden eyes focusing on Maya's face. A small sound escaped her throat, not quite a cry, more like a question. Maya turned to Emperor Thraxin. Your Majesty, may I ask you a personal question? The Emperor looked surprised but nodded stiffly. Speak. When was the last time someone just held them? The room fell silent. The question hung in the air like a physical thing. Emperor Thraxin stared at the human doctor as if she had spoken in an unknown language. Around them, court officials shifted uncomfortably. Morpheus opened his mouth and then closed it again. Held them, the Emperor finally repeated. They are Imperial heirs. They are not, we do not. Touch them? Maya finished gently. When was the last time you or anyone else picked them up, held them close, gave them comfort? Thraxin's scales rippled with confusion and something that might have been shame. The protocols state that excessive physical contact weakens hatchlings. They must learn strength, independence, since their mother died. He trailed off, looking at his children with new eyes. Since Silvara died, I have visited them every day. But I have not held them. That is not our custom. Maya looked at the 2 small hatchlings, crying alone in their perfect, terrible medical prisons. She looked at the advanced technology that monitored every vital sign while missing the most important thing. She looked at the Emperor, a father prevented by tradition from comforting his own children. And she understood exactly what was wrong. Your Majesty, she said quietly, her voice carrying clearly through the silent room. I believe I know what is killing your children. And it has nothing to do with disease. Every eye in the medical wing fixed on Dr. Maya Chin. The small human stood before the most powerful beings in the Draconite Empire and made an impossible claim. She knew what was wrong with the Imperial heirs when the best medical minds in the galaxy had failed. Emperor Thraxin took a step forward. His massive form towered over Maya, but she did not flinch. Explain yourself, human, he said. His voice was controlled, but underneath it ran a current of desperate hope. Maya gestured toward the containment units. May I examine them properly? Not with your machines but with my own methods. Chief Healer Morpheus made a sound of protest. That is highly irregular. The hatchlings are in critical condition. We cannot risk. Risk what? Maya interrupted gently. They are dying anyway, are they not? What harm can a physical examination do that your protocols have not already done? The Emperor raised one clawed hand for silence. For a long moment he studied the human doctor. She met his gaze steadily, without fear or arrogance. Just calm certainty. Finally he nodded. Do what you must. Court officials murmured their disapproval as Maya approached Sarah's containment unit. She pressed several controls that Morpheus reluctantly pointed out, and the clear door slid open. The smell of antiseptic and sick hatchling wafted out. Sarah lay curled in the corner, her breathing rapid and shallow. Her scales continued their unhealthy color shifts, red to orange to yellow and back again. Maya knelt down slowly, making herself small and non-threatening. She did not reach for Sarah immediately. Instead, she began to speak in a soft, gentle voice. Hello, little one. My name is Maya. I know you feel bad. I know you hurt. I am here to help you feel better. Sarah's eyes opened. They were beautiful, golden like her father's, but clouded with pain and confusion. She watched Maya with the wariness of a creature that had learned the world was not safe. Maya extended her hand slowly, palm up, letting Sarah see and smell it. I am not going to hurt you, she whispered. I promise. The hatchling's nostrils flared as she took in Maya's scent. Human. Strange. different from the cold metal and sharp chemical smells that had surrounded her for weeks. Maya smelled warm. She smelled alive. Slowly, very slowly, Maya reached out and placed her hand on Sarah's side. The little dragon flinched at first, then went still. Maya's hand was warm against her fevered scales. The touch was gentle, careful, nothing like the clinical handling of the medical staff who only touched her to administer treatments or take samples. Maya began to run her hand along Sarah's scales, following the direction of their growth. She felt the heat radiating from the small body. She felt the rapid heartbeat, the tense muscles, the way the hatchling trembled. But she also felt something the machines could not measure. Fear. Loneliness. A bone-deep exhaustion that went beyond physical illness. "Your scales are very beautiful," Maya murmured. "Even now, I can see how lovely they will be when you are well." Sarah made a small sound, almost like a question. Maya smiled and continued her gentle stroking. After a few minutes, she carefully slid her arms under the hatchling's body and lifted her. Sarah tensed, her small wings fluttering in alarm. "Sure, I have got you," Maya said. She settled Sarah against her chest, supporting the hatchling's weight carefully. "You are safe now." Around the room, Draconite officials watched in shock. The human was holding an imperial air like a common pet. Like a child. It was undignified. It was improper. Sarah's scales began to change color. The angry red faded to orange, then to yellow, then to a pale, soft silver. Her breathing slowed. Her trembling eased. She pressed her small head against Maya's shoulder and released a long, shuddering sigh. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the small life in her arms begin to calm. She rocked slightly, swaying back and forth in an ancient rhythm that mothers of every species seemed to know. She began to hum softly, a simple melody without words. Emperor Thraxon took a step forward, his scales rippling with an emotion he could not name. His daughter, who had cried without ceasing for 3 weeks, was growing quiet in the arms of a stranger. A human stranger. After several minutes, Maya gently returned Sarah to her containment unit. The hatchling whimpered as she was set down, reaching out with one small claw. Maya stroked her head one more time. "I will be back, little one. I promise." She moved to Kale's unit and repeated the process. The male hatchling was even more withdrawn than his sister, curled so tightly that his wings covered his head. But Maya was patient. She spoke softly, moved slowly, and eventually he too allowed himself to be held. Like Sarah, his fevered scales cooled at her touch. Like Sarah, he relaxed against her warmth and breathed easier. When Maya finally stood and faced the assembled Draconites, her expression was serious. "Your Majesty, Chief Healer, honored officials. I believe I understand what is happening to Sarah and Kale." "Then speak," Thraxon commanded. His voice shook slightly. Maya chose her words carefully. "In human medicine we have documented a condition in infants called failure to thrive. It happens when babies receive adequate nutrition and medical care but lack something else. Something we used to think was optional but now know is essential. Physical affection. Touch. Comfort. Bonding." Morpheus frowned. "The hatchlings have received the finest care available. Every need has been met according to the most advanced protocols." "Every physical need, yes," Maya agreed. "But not their emotional needs. Not their psychological needs." She paused, then continued gently. "Sarah and Kale lost their mother at birth. That is a trauma no medical scan can measure. Then they were placed alone in a nursery according to tradition. They were fed, cleaned, monitored but not held. Not comforted. Not loved in the way that small, vulnerable creatures need to be loved." "That is ridiculous," an official sputtered. "They are Draconites, not weak humans who need constant coddling." Maya turned to face him. "Are Draconites born fully grown? Do your hatchlings emerge from their eggs ready to face the world alone?" "Of course not," the official said defensively. "Then why would you expect them to thrive without the care and comfort that every young creature needs?" Maya asked. "In my research on the journey here, I learned that wild Draconite mothers keep their hatchlings in constant contact for the first year of life. They carry them, sleep curled around them, teach them through touch and presence. But somewhere in your civilization's development, you decided this was weakness. You created protocols that separated parents from children in the name of building strength." She gestured to the containment units. "Look at the result. These are not sick hatchlings. They are heartbroken hatchlings. They are traumatized hatchlings. Their bodies are failing because their spirits are broken. The fever, the crying, the refusal to eat, these are not symptoms of disease. They are symptoms of profound distress." The room erupted in arguments. Some officials shouted that this was an insult to Draconite culture. Others demanded Maya be removed immediately. But Emperor Thraxin held up his hand for silence. His eyes were fixed on his children, really seeing them for the first time in weeks. "What do you propose?" he asked quietly. Maya took a breath. "I propose we change everything. Dim these harsh lights. Remove the clinical equipment that is not absolutely necessary. Make this space warm and comfortable instead of sterile and cold. And most importantly, I propose constant physical contact. Someone needs to hold them, comfort them, let them know they are safe and loved." "Impossible," Morpheus said. "We have duties, schedules. The medical staff cannot simply hold patients all day." "Then I will do it," Maya said simply. "I volunteer to stay with Sarah and Kale. To provide the comfort care they need. I have no other duties here. No schedule to keep. Just 2 sick children who need someone to care for them." She turned to Emperor Thraxin. "Your Majesty, your protocols are killing your children. Not intentionally. Not maliciously. But the effect is the same. They need what every young creature needs. They need to be held. To be soothed. To feel safe. Give me 1 week. If I am wrong, you lose nothing. But if I am right. If you are right, you will save them," Thraxin finished. He looked at his heirs, so small and suffering in their technological prisons. He thought of Silvara, who had begged him in her final moments to love their children well. He had thought keeping them safe and following tradition was love. Perhaps he had been wrong. 1 week, he said. "Do what you believe is right, Dr. Chin." The first thing Maya did was clear the room. She politely but firmly asked all the court officials to leave. Most went reluctantly, muttering complaints about improper procedures and damaged protocols. Chief Healer Morpheus refused to go, insisting he needed to monitor the Imperial heirs. Maya agreed he could stay but only if he remained quiet and did not interfere. Emperor Thraxin also stayed. He positioned himself near the observation window, watching everything with intense focus. Maya noticed but said nothing. A father had every right to watch over his children. With the room finally calm, Maya began to transform the space. She asked Morpheus to dim the harsh overhead lights to half their brightness. The healer hesitated, arguing that proper medical observation required full illumination. Maya stood her ground. "They need rest, not examination," she said firmly. "Dim the lights, please." Reluctantly, Morpheus complied. The medical wing immediately felt different. Softer. Less like an interrogation room and more like a place where healing could happen. Next, Maya requested blankets. Morpheus looked confused. "Blankets? For what purpose? The temperature is carefully regulated. The hatchlings cannot be cold." "Not for warmth," Maya explained patiently. "For comfort. For softness. Do you have anything like that?" After some searching, staff members brought what the Draconites used for padding equipment. The material was functional but better than nothing. Maya folded several pieces and created a soft nest on the floor between the 2 containment units. She also asked for the monitoring equipment to be silenced. Silenced? Morpheus looked horrified. "How will we know if their condition changes?" "You can still watch the displays," Maya said. "But the constant beeping and humming needs to stop. Imagine trying to rest while machines make noise every few seconds. They need quiet." Morpheus made the adjustments, though his expression showed he thought this was all very irregular. The medical wing became peaceful for the first time since the hatchlings had fallen ill. Only the soft glow of dimmed lights and the quiet hum of essential equipment remained. Maya washed her hands thoroughly, then approached Sarah's containment unit first. She opened the door and knelt down. "Hello again, little one. Remember me? I am going to pick you up now." Sarah lifted her head weakly. Her scales still flickered with unhealthy colors, though perhaps slightly less intensely than before. She did not resist when Maya carefully gathered her into her arms. The hatchling was heavier than she looked, her scales warm to the touch with fever. Maya carried Sarah to the soft nest she had prepared and sat down, settling the hatchling against her chest. Sarah's small claws gripped Maya's uniform, holding on like she was afraid of being put down again. Maya wrapped one of the soft cloths around them both, creating a cocoon of warmth and security. "There we go," Maya murmured. "You are safe now. I have got you." She began to rock slowly, her movements gentle and rhythmic. With one hand she stroked Sarah's scales in long, soothing motions. With the other she supported the hatchling's weight, making sure she felt secure. And she began to hum. The melody was simple, something Maya's own mother had sung to her as a child. She did not know if the tune meant anything to a Draconite hatchling, but the vibration of her voice seemed to matter more than the notes themselves. Sarah could feel the sound resonating through Maya's chest, a living warmth that spoke of presence and care. Minutes passed. Maya continued rocking, humming, stroking. She did not check the time. She did not think about her aching arms or her uncomfortable position on the floor. She simply focused on the small life in her arms, pouring every bit of comfort and safety she could offer into that contact. Slowly, gradually, Sarah's scales began to change. The angry red faded to orange. The orange softened to yellow. The yellow paled to the faintest hint of silver. Her breathing, which had been quick and shallow, deepened and slowed. The tension in her small body began to ease. From his position by the observation window, Emperor Thraxin watched in stunned silence. He had seen his daughter in distress for so long that he had almost forgotten what peace looked like on her small face. Now, cradled in the arms of a human stranger, Sarah looked almost like a normal hatchling. The constant whimpering that had torn at his heart for weeks had stopped. At his medical station, Morpheus stared at his monitors with disbelief. Sarah's heart rate was dropping to normal levels. Her body temperature was decreasing. The stress hormones that had been dangerously elevated were falling. All the vital signs that had resisted every medical intervention were improving, and the only treatment being administered was being held. After about 20 minutes, Sarah released a long, deep sigh. Her eyes, which had remained half open and wary, slowly closed. Her breathing settled into the steady rhythm of sleep. Real sleep, not the fitful, pain-filled unconsciousness she had experienced for weeks. Maya smiled, tears pricking at her eyes. "Good girl," she whispered. "Rest now. You are safe." She continued holding Sarah for several more minutes, making sure the hatchling was truly settled. Then very carefully she shifted positions. She kept Sarah cradled against her left side, supported by her arm in the soft cloths. With her right arm now free, she reached toward Kale's containment unit. "Morpheus," she called softly. "Can you open Kale's unit and bring him to me?" The old healer hesitated. "Should you not put Sarah down first? You cannot possibly hold both of them." "I can and I will," Maya said firmly. "They are twins. They shared their mother's womb. They should not be separated now." Morpheus wanted to argue, but the evidence of Sarah's improvement was displayed on every monitor. He opened Kale's unit and carefully lifted the male hatchling. Kale was more distressed than his sister had been, making small sounds of fear and confusion as he was moved. "Bring him here," Maya instructed, adjusting her position to make room. Morpheus placed Kale in Maya's right arm. The hatchling immediately tried to squirm away, his small wings fluttering in panic. But Maya held him securely, not tightly enough to restrain but firmly enough to provide security. She brought him close to her chest, right next to his sleeping sister. "Show, little one," Maya soothed. "Your sister is right here. Feel her? She is safe and so are you." Kale's struggling slowed as he registered Sarah's presence. In their weeks of isolation, the twins had been kept in separate units, unable to touch or comfort each other. Now, pressed together against Maya's warmth, something ancient and instinctive stirred in both of them. The need for connection. The comfort of pack. The safety of family. Maya resumed her humming, the melody soft and continuous. She rocked both hatchlings now, the movement taking more effort with the added weight but no less gentle. Her right hand stroked Kale's scales while her left arm supported Sarah. She created a living nest of safety and warmth, her body a promise that they were not alone. Kale's fevered scales began the same transformation his sisters had undergone. Red to orange to yellow to silver. His rapid breathing slowed. His whimpering quieted. He pressed closer to Sarah, their small bodies curling around each other as they must have done in the egg before birth. Maya's arms ached. Her back protested the awkward position. Her legs were going numb from sitting still so long. She ignored all of it. These children needed her and she would not fail them. She began to sing softly, adding words to the melody. The song was in English, which the hatchlings could not understand, but understanding was not the point. The sound, the rhythm, the love behind the words, that was what mattered. "You are safe now, little ones. You are loved. You are not alone. Sleep now, rest now, let yourself heal. You are safe now, little ones." Morpheus checked his monitors again and then again, unable to believe what he was seeing. Both hatchlings' vital signs were approaching normal ranges. The fever that had burned in them for 3 weeks was finally breaking. Their stress responses were calming. And they were sleeping. Actually sleeping, deeply and peacefully. Emperor Thraxin pressed his hand against the observation window, his claws leaving small scratches in the reinforced material. He watched the small human hold his children with a tenderness he had denied them. Tears rolled down his scaled cheeks, something he had not allowed himself since Silvara's death. In Maya's arms, Sarah and Kale slept on, their small bodies finally at rest. Their scales had cooled to normal temperature, shining with healthy silver color. They breathed in perfect synchronization, their hearts beating steady and strong. For the first time in weeks they were not in pain. They were not afraid. They were simply two small hatchlings held safe in the arms of someone who cared, experiencing what they should have known from birth. The power of touch. The healing of presence. The medicine of love. Maya continued to rock and hum, keeping vigil over the sleeping twins as the hours passed, her arms never wavering in their embrace. Maya had been holding the twins for nearly 4 hours when the door to the medical wing opened. Emperor Tharaxin entered quietly, his massive form moving with surprising grace. He had watched from the observation window long enough. His children were improving in the arms of a stranger while he stood apart, separated by glass and protocol. He could not bear it any longer. Maya looked up as he approached. She saw the conflict in his golden eyes, the way his claws flexed nervously at his sides. This was a being who commanded fleets and ruled systems, reduced to uncertainty by two small sleeping hatchlings. "Your Majesty," Maya said softly, careful not to wake Sarah and Kale. "Would you like to sit with us?" Tharaxin nodded, unable to find his voice. He lowered himself to the floor near Maya, his movements careful and controlled. Up close he could see the details the observation window had hidden. How peacefully his children slept. How their scales had returned to healthy silver. How they curled together, their small wings overlapping. "They look better," he said finally, his deep voice barely above a whisper. "They are better," Maya confirmed. "Their fevers have broken. Their vital signs are stabilizing. They just needed to feel safe." Tharaxin stared at his children, then at his own large clawed hands. "I do not know how," he admitted. The words came hard for one who was supposed to have all the answers. "I do not know how to do what you do. My claws. I could hurt them. I am too large, too clumsy." The protocols existed for good reason, to keep the heirs safe from love. Maya interrupted gently. "Your Majesty, may I be direct with you?" He nodded. "You will not hurt them. Yes, you have claws. Yes, you are larger than they are. But you are their father. Your body knows how to be gentle with them even if your mind has forgotten. Will you let me teach you?" Tharaxin looked at her with something like fear. This mighty emperor who faced down enemies without flinching was afraid of holding his own children. "What if I fail? What if I do it wrong?" "Then you adjust and try again," Maya said simply. "That is what parenting is. There is no perfect way. There is only love and effort and presence. The fact that you want to try already makes you better than you think." She shifted carefully, preparing to transfer one of the hatchlings. "Let us start with Kale. He is a bit smaller than Sarah. Extend your arms like this." She demonstrated, creating a cradle with her arms. Tharaxin mimicked her position, his arms stiff and uncertain. His claws caught the light, looking dangerous and sharp. He had used these hands to sign treaties and declarations of war. The idea of using them to hold something so small and fragile terrified him. "Good," Maya encouraged. "Now, the most important thing is to support his head and neck. Keep your movements slow and smooth. Let me transfer him to you." She leaned forward carefully, sliding one hand under Kale's small body while keeping the other supporting his head. The hatchling stirred slightly but did not wake. Maya moved slowly, giving Tharaxin time to adjust his position as she placed Kale in his father's arms. The moment Kale settled against his father's chest, Tharaxin froze. The weight was so slight. The body so warm and small. He could feel every breath the hatchling took. His son. His heir. In his arms for the first time since the hatching ceremony, when tradition had demanded he hold each twin once and then hand them to the nursery staff. "I have him," Tharaxin asked, his voice shaking. "You have him," Maya confirmed. "Now just hold him close. Let him feel your heartbeat. You are warm, you are solid, you are safe. That is what he needs." Kale made a small sound in his sleep, a quiet chirp. His small claws flexed, gripping the fabric across Tharaxin's chest. The Emperor looked down at his son with wonder in his eyes. This tiny creature, so vulnerable and precious, trusted him enough to sleep in his arms. "Talk to him," Maya suggested. "Let him hear your voice." "What do I say?" Tharaxin asked helplessly. "Whatever is in your heart." Tharaxin was silent for a long moment. Then, haltingly, he began to speak. "Kale. My son. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I was not here when you needed me. They told me it would make you weak to be held. They said the old ways were best, that distance creates strength. But they were wrong. I was wrong. His voice grew stronger as he spoke. Your mother, Silvara, she knew better. In her last moments, she made me promise to love you and your sister well. I thought I was honoring that promise by following tradition, by giving you the best medical care, the finest education plan for your future. But I forgot the most important thing. I forgot to simply be your father. Kale stirred, his eyes opening slowly. For a moment he seemed confused, disoriented. Then his gaze focused on the large face looking down at him. Some deep instinct recognized this presence. This scent. This heartbeat that he had heard faintly through the egg before hatching. Papa? The word came out as barely more than a squeak, but it was clear. Thraxen's breath caught. Tears spilled freely down his scaled cheeks. Yes, he whispered. Yes, little one. I am here. Kale chirped again, this time with more energy. His tail, which had been limp for weeks, began to move in a gentle wag. He pressed his small head against his father's chest, right over his heart. Maya smiled, her own eyes wet. See? You are doing perfectly. Can I? Thraxen hesitated. Can I hold Sarah too? Of course. Here, let me help you adjust. Together, they repositioned Thraxen so he could hold both twins. Maya showed him how to cradle one in each arm, how to support their weight, how to keep them secure without gripping too tightly. His claws, which had seemed so dangerous, curved naturally to create safe spaces for his children to rest. Sarah woke as she was transferred, her golden eyes opening wide. She saw her father's face and made a sound of recognition. Like her brother, some ancient knowledge told her this was safety. This was home. Papa, she said clearly, her voice stronger than Kale's. My daughter, Thraxen replied, his voice breaking. My beautiful, brave daughter. Both hatchlings began to chirp and trill, sounds of contentment and joy that had not been heard in the medical wing for weeks. They climbed on their father, their small claws finding purchase on his scales. They rubbed their heads against his chest, his arms, his face. They covered him in small affectionate nips that did not break skin, an instinctive gesture of bonding. Thraxen laughed, a sound of pure joy breaking through his tears. They are so active, so alive. Just hours ago they could barely lift their heads. They were dying from the inside, Maya said quietly. Not from disease but from heartbreak. You are healing them in ways no medicine could. She stood slowly, giving the Emperor space with his children. Her work here was done, at least for this moment. Thraxen needed to learn this himself, to build this bond without her mediation. Dr. Chin, Thraxen called as she moved toward the door. She turned back. The Emperor sat on the floor of the medical wing, his royal robes crumpled, his dignified posture forgotten. He held his children close, scales pressed to scales, and he looked more like a true ruler than he ever had on his throne. Thank you, he said simply. You have given me back what I thought was lost forever. I did not give you anything, Maya replied gently. It was always there. You just needed permission to see it. She left the medical wing quietly, closing the door behind her. Through the observation window, she watched as Emperor Thraxen bent his great head down to nuzzle his children. She heard him begin to speak to them, his deep voice rumbling with warmth and love. He told them stories of their mother. He sang them a lullaby in the old Draconite tongue, rusty from disuse but beautiful nonetheless. Chief Healer Morpheus stood beside Maya, his eyes fixed on his monitors in disbelief. Remarkable, he murmured. All vital signs continue to improve. Heart rate, temperature, stress hormones, everything. How is this possible? Because they are finally getting what they needed all along, Maya said. Not better medicine. Better love. In the medical wing, Sarah climbed onto her father's shoulder and chirped directly into his ear. Kale curled up in the crook of his father's arm, his tail wrapped around Thraxen's wrist. The Emperor held them both, learning the weight and feel and wonder of them, understanding at last what it meant to be not just a ruler but a father. And for the first time since their mother's death, the imperial heirs were truly home. 3 days after Emperor Thraxen first held his children, he called a formal assembly of the High Court. Word had spread through the palace about the miraculous recovery of the imperial heirs. Sarah and Kale were now active, playful, and growing stronger each day. The fever was gone. The crying had stopped. They ate with healthy appetites and slept peacefully through the nights. But not everyone was happy about how this recovery had been achieved. The Grand Council chamber was filled with the highest-ranking members of Draconite society. Military commanders with scales scarred from countless battles. Ancient nobles whose families had advised emperors for generations. chief administrators who kept the vast empire running smoothly, and medical professionals who had dedicated their lives to Draconite health and science. They stood in their formal positions, arranged by rank and status, as Emperor Thraxin entered. He did not come alone. In one arm he carried Sarah. In the other Kale. The hatchlings looked around the chamber with bright, curious eyes, no longer dulled by pain and fear. Behind the Emperor walked Dr. Maya Chin, small and simple in her medical uniform, completely out of place among the grandeur of the Draconite court. A ripple of shock ran through the assembly. The Emperor carrying his own children like a common parent? Bringing a human into the sacred council chamber? This was unprecedented. Thraxin took his position at the head of the chamber. He did not sit on his throne. Instead, he remained standing, his children in his arms. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. Members of the High Court, I have called you here to witness a change. A change in law. A change in protocol. A change in how we, as Draconites, will raise our young from this day forward. Lord Chancellor Vexen, an elderly Draconite with silver scales and traditional views, stepped forward. Your Majesty, we are pleased to see the Imperial heirs recovered. However, we have concerns about the irregular methods used to achieve this recovery. Perhaps we should discuss this in private without the presence of outsiders. He glanced pointedly at Maya. Dr. Chin stays, Thraxin said flatly. She is the reason my children are alive. She will be part of this discussion. Vexen's scales rippled with displeasure, but he bowed his head in acknowledgement. Thraxin continued. 4 weeks, the best medical minds in our empire tried to save Sarah and Kale. Every treatment failed. Every protocol proved useless. My children were dying and we were helpless to stop it. He paused, looking down at the hatchlings in his arms. Then Dr. Chin arrived. She diagnosed the problem in minutes. Not with advanced scanners or complex tests. She simply asked when someone had last held them. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some sounded thoughtful. Others dismissive. That question saved their lives, Thraxin said. Because the answer was never. Not since their mother died. Our protocols, our traditions, our ancient customs of raising heirs in isolation to build strength, these things nearly killed my children. Your Majesty, interrupted High Physician Drexel, a respected medical authority. With respect, correlation is not causation. The heirs may have recovered due to natural immune response, or the culmination of treatments already administered. To credit a human's cuddling, as the cure is scientifically unsound. Maya had remained silent until now, but she stepped forward. May I present my findings to the court, Your Majesty? Thraxin nodded. Maya moved to the center of the chamber, her small form dwarfed by the towering Draconites around her. She showed no fear. Honored members of the court, I understand your skepticism. In your position I would feel the same. So let me present the evidence. She activated a portable display unit, showing charts and data. These are Sarah and Kale's vital signs over the past 3 weeks. You can see the steady decline despite all medical interventions. Heart rate elevated. Body temperature rising. Stress hormones increasing. Now look at this point. She highlighted a specific timestamp. This is the moment I first held Sarah. Within 20 minutes, her heart rate decreased by 30%. Her body temperature dropped 2 degrees. Her stress hormones began to normalize. The court members leaned in, studying the data with professional interest. This is not coincidence, Maya continued. This is a documented physiological response to comfort and security. In human medicine, we have extensive research on what we call failure to thrive in infants. When babies receive nutrition and medical care but lack physical affection and emotional bonding, they become ill. Some even die. Their bodies cannot develop properly without the psychological foundation of safety and love. Humans are not Draconites, Vexen argued. Our species evolved differently. We are stronger, more independent. Are you? Maya asked quietly. Because when I researched wild Draconite populations, I found that mothers in natural environments keep their hatchlings in constant physical contact for the first year of life. They carry them, sleep curled around them, groom their scales daily. This is not weakness. This is biology. Your ancient ancestors knew what modern protocols have forgotten. She displayed images from anthropological studies of wild Draconites. The court fell silent, watching mothers and hatchlings interact with tenderness and constant touch. At some point in your civilization's history, Maya said, you decided that this natural bonding was inappropriate for imperial heirs. That they needed to be tougher, stronger, raised in isolation to prepare them for leadership. But you cannot fool biology. You cannot override millions of years of evolution with protocol. Chief Healer Morpheus stepped forward unexpectedly. The human doctor speaks truth, he said, his voice heavy. I have reviewed all the medical data. The improvement in the Imperial heirs correlates directly with increased physical contact and emotional comfort. There is no other explanation. We were treating symptoms while ignoring the cause. His admission carried weight. Morpheus was respected, traditional, not given to supporting radical ideas without evidence. Thraxan shifted Kale to a more comfortable position. The hatchling chirped happily and nuzzled his father's neck. I have spent these past 3 days learning to be a father to my children. Not an emperor granting them an audience. A father. Holding them. Playing with them. Comforting them when they cry. And I have watched them transform from suffering, frightened hatchlings into healthy, happy ones. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every council member. I was following our traditions. I was doing what every emperor before me had done. And it nearly cost me my children. How many other Draconite young have suffered because we mistook coldness for strength? How many have died because we denied them what they needed most? Your Majesty, another noble protested. If we change these protocols, we admit our ancestors were wrong. We admit our entire system of raising leaders is flawed. Yes, Thraxan said simply. We do. And we must. Because what is the alternative? Continue hurting our children in the name of tradition? Let more heirs suffer and die rather than admit we made mistakes. He set Sarah and Kale down gently. They immediately began exploring the council chamber with typical hatchling curiosity, staying close to their father but investigating this new environment. The court members watched them, seeing healthy, vibrant young ones instead of the dying hatchlings they had been. I am issuing a new imperial decree, Thraxan announced. Effective immediately, all protocols regarding hatchling care will be reviewed and revised. Physical contact, emotional bonding, and parental presence will be prioritized over isolation and independence training. The medical community will study Dr. Chen's methods and implement them across our healthcare systems. Your Majesty, this is too radical, too fast, Vexen argued. We need time to study, to debate, to consider the implications. My children did not have time, Thraxan interrupted, his voice sharp. They were dying while we debated and studied. How many other parents in our empire are watching their hatchlings suffer right now, following protocols that harm instead of heal? No. The change begins today. He turned to Maya. Dr. Chen, I am formally requesting that the human medical community provide advisors to help us implement these changes throughout Draconite territories. I'm asking for your help. Will you give it? The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. The Draconite Empire, proud and ancient, asking another species for assistance? Unthinkable. Unprecedented. Maya bowed respectfully. Your Majesty, I would be honored. But understand, this is not about humans teaching Draconites. This is about different perspectives working together. You have medical knowledge and technology far beyond ours. We have insights from studying many different species and cultures. Together we can create something better than either of us could alone. Thraxan nodded. Well spoken. Then it is decided. I must protest, Vexen said desperately. Your Majesty, this undermines our entire cultural foundation. What will other species think? What will our enemies say when they learn we needed human help? Thraxan picked up Sarah, who had wandered back to him seeking comfort. He held her close and looked at Vexen with absolute certainty. They will say that the Draconite Empire loves its children more than its pride. They will say we are strong enough to admit mistakes and wise enough to learn from others. And if that undermines our cultural foundation, then our foundation was built on sand. He addressed the entire court. I am your emperor. But before that I am a father. And I will not sacrifice my children or any Draconite child on the altar of tradition. Those who cannot accept this change may resign their positions. Those who remain will help build a better future for all our young. The chamber fell silent. Then, slowly, Morpheus stepped forward and bowed deeply. I will help, Your Majesty. I was wrong. I am ready to learn. One by one, other court members followed. Some bowed readily, convinced by the evidence. Others bowed reluctantly, unable to argue against their emperor's decree. A few, like Vexen, stood rigid with disapproval but did not leave. Thraxan looked at Maya. It begins. Maya smiled, watching Kale climb onto his father's shoulder and Sarah settle in his arms. Yes, Your Majesty. It begins. 3 months had passed since the day Maya first held the dying imperial heirs. The Imperial Palace had changed in ways both visible and invisible. The harsh lighting in the nursery wings had been replaced with softer, warmer illumination. Sterile medical equipment gave way to comfortable spaces designed for young hatchlings. Throughout the Empire, new protocols spread like ripples across water, changing how Draconite families cared for their young. But the biggest change was in Sarah and Kale themselves. The twins had grown considerably, now almost twice the size they had been when Maya arrived. Their scales gleamed with perfect health, shining silver with hints of gold around their eyes, just like their father. They flew short distances on their developing wings. They explored everything with endless curiosity. They laughed and played and got into the kind of harmless trouble that all healthy children create. And they adored Maya. The human doctor had become a constant presence in their lives over these months. She had stayed at the palace, working with Morpheus and other medical professionals to develop new care guidelines. She taught classes on developmental health. She consulted with parents across the Empire who were learning to bond with their hatchlings properly. But most importantly, she spent time with Sarah and Kale every single day. She played games with them. She told them stories. She taught them simple human words alongside their Draconite lessons. She comforted them when they had bad dreams and celebrated their small victories. To the Imperial heirs, Maya was not a doctor or an advisor. She was family. Which made this morning so difficult. Maya stood in the palace landing bay, her medical bag packed and ready. Her assignment was complete. The Draconite medical community now had the training and resources they needed to continue the work she had started. It was time for her to return to human space, to her duties with the Galactic Medical Corps, to other patients who needed her skills. Sarah and Kale sat nearby, their wings drooping, their usually bright eyes dim with sadness. They understood Maya was leaving. They did not understand why. Emperor Thraxin approached, his footsteps heavy. Over these 3 months he had transformed as much as his children. He no longer stood apart from them in royal dignity. He carried them, played with them, read to them every night before sleep. He had learned what it meant to be not just their emperor but their father. And he had learned it from Maya. "Dr. Chen," he said formally, though warmth filled his voice. "Before you depart, I have a proposition." Maya turned to face him. "Your Majesty?" "Stay," Thraxin said simply. "Become our chief advisor on developmental health permanently. You have done more for our people in 3 months than generations of our own physicians accomplished. We need you. My children need you." At his words, Sarah and Kale rushed to Maya, wrapping their small bodies around her legs. "Stay, Maya," Sarah pleaded. "Please stay." "We need you," Kale added, his voice breaking. "You are our nest ant. You cannot leave." Maya knelt down, gathering both hatchlings into her arms. Her heart ached. She had grown to love these two as if they were her own. The thought of leaving them hurt more than she had expected. But she had responsibilities beyond this palace, beyond this world. "Your Majesty, I am honored," she said carefully. "Truly. But I have duties to my own people. Other patients who need care. A career I have built over many years. I cannot simply abandon all of that." "Name your terms," Thraxin pressed. "Any salary, any resources, any accommodations you require. The Draconite Empire has wealth beyond measure. We will provide whatever you need." Maya shook her head gently. "It is not about money or resources, Your Majesty. It is about purpose. I became a doctor to help as many beings as possible. If I stay here permanently, I limit myself to one world, one species. That is not the path I chose." Disappointment showed clearly on Thraxin's face. Sarah began to cry, small sounds of distress that Maya had not heard from her since those first terrible days. Kale pressed his face against Maya's shoulder, his small body shaking. "However," Maya continued, an idea forming, "perhaps we can find a compromise?" Thraxin's head lifted with hope. "What do you propose?" "A rotating position," Maya explained. "I return to human space and continue my regular duties with the medical corps. But every 3 months I come back here for a month-long assignment. I help train new medical staff, consult on difficult cases, and check on the progress of your reforms. And," she hugged the twins closer, "I spend time with these two. Watch them grow. Stay part of their lives." Sarah pulled back, her golden eyes wide. "You would come back? Really?" "Really," Maya promised. "I would never abandon you. But I need to help others too. Can you understand that?" Kale nodded slowly, though tears still rolled down his scaled cheeks. "You are a healer. Healers help everyone, not just us." "Exactly," Maya said, pride filling her voice. "You are so smart, Kale." Thraxin considered the proposal carefully. It was not what he wanted. He wanted Maya here always, a constant presence to guide his empire through these changes. But he could see the wisdom in her words. And he recognized that forcing her to stay would dishonor everything she had taught him about respecting the needs and autonomy of others. Very well, he agreed. A rotating position. 4 months here, 8 months away. That gives you more time with my children and our medical community. Is this acceptable? Maya smiled. It is perfect, Your Majesty. The formalities were settled quickly. Contracts were prepared. Schedules were arranged. Maya would depart today but return in 2 months for her first rotation. It was not immediate, but it was a promise. As the final preparations were made, Sarah tugged on Maya's sleeve. Maya? Can we do the naming ceremony now? Before you go? Maya looked at Thraxin with confusion. Naming ceremony? The Emperor's scales rippled with what might have been embarrassment. The twins had been asking for weeks. In Draconite tradition, when someone becomes part of the family through bonds of love rather than blood, we perform a naming ceremony. They want to formally name you as their nest aunt. Nest aunt? Maya repeated. It is a position of great honor, Thraxin explained. Higher than friend, closer than distant family. A nest aunt is someone who helps raise the young, who loves them as a parent does, who will always have a place in the family nest. It is not given lightly. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. I would be deeply honored. The ceremony was simple but profound. Sarah and Kale stood before Maya, their small forms straight and serious. They recited words in the ancient Draconite tongue, their voices clear and strong. Then together they placed their clawed hands over Maya's heart. We name you Nest Aunt Maya, they said in unison. Forever part of our family. Forever welcome in our nest. Forever loved. Maya placed her hands over theirs. I accept this honor. I promise to always be here when you need me. To love you and guide you and watch you grow. You are part of my heart now as I am part of yours. Thraxin watched with visible emotion. In his culture, this ceremony bound Maya to his family with ties that could never be broken. She was now officially part of the imperial line, with all the privileges and responsibilities that entailed. As Maya's shuttle prepared for departure, the goodbyes were tearful but not as painful as they might have been. There was sadness in parting, yes, but also the certainty of reunion. Sarah and Kale hugged Maya one last time, extracting promises that she would call them every week and bring them human books and toys when she returned. Be good for your father, Maya told them. Practice your lessons. And remember what I taught you. Always be kind, Sarah recited. Always be curious. Always help those who need it. Perfect, Maya said, kissing each of their foreheads. She turned to Thraxin, who bowed deeply in respect. Thank you, Dr. Chin. For everything. You saved not just my children but my entire civilization. You saved yourselves, Maya corrected gently. I just showed you what you had forgotten. The love was always there. You just needed permission to show it. The shuttle lifted off, rising through the purple sky of Scaloris Prime. Maya watched through the window as the palace grew smaller. She could see 2 small figures on the landing pad, their wings waving in farewell. That evening, after the excitement had faded and the palace had grown quiet, Emperor Thraxin sat in the newly redesigned nursery with Sarah and Kale. The room was warm and comfortable now, filled with soft materials and gentle light. The twins curled up on either side of their father, ready for their nightly story. Thraxin picked up a book from the table beside him. It had a colorful cover showing a human child and strange human animals. Maya had left it as a gift, a piece of her world for his children to treasure. What story tonight? He asked. The one Maya left, both twins said eagerly. Thraxin opened the book and began to read, his deep voice carefully pronouncing the unfamiliar human words. The story was simple, about kindness and friendship and seeing past differences. As he read, Sarah and Kale listened with rapt attention, their small bodies warm against his sides. This was family, Thraxin thought. This simple moment of togetherness. Not ceremonies or protocols or imperial dignity. Just a father and his children, sharing a story before sleep. Outside the window, stars filled the night sky. Somewhere among them, Maya traveled toward her next assignment, carrying the memory of 2 small hatchlings in her heart. And here in the palace, those same hatchlings dreamed of her return, secure in the knowledge that love transcends distance. A human had come to the Draconite Empire and changed everything. Not through superior technology or military might. Not through conquest or cultural dominance. She had changed an entire civilization through the simple act of compassion. By teaching a father to hold his children. by showing that strength and tenderness are not opposites but partners. The bridge between their worlds was built not of metal and treaties, but of understanding and love. And it would endure. Thraxen finished the story and carefully set the book aside. Sarah and Kale were already drowsy, their breathing slowing toward sleep. He adjusted his position so they could rest more comfortably, his wings curving around them protectively. "Papa?" Sarah murmured sleepily. "Yes, my heart. Maya will come back, right?" "She promised?" "She promised," Thraxen confirmed. "And Maya always keeps her promises." "Good," Sarah whispered and drifted into peaceful sleep. Thraxen sat there long after both twins had fallen asleep, holding his children close, thinking about the human doctor who had taught him everything that mattered. The Empire would continue its changes. The reforms would spread. Other species would watch and learn. But here, in this quiet moment, the revolution was already complete. Because a father held his children and they knew they were loved. And that changed everything.